Hi, I'm Mike Thompson. The other day, I was driving down the highway and I just about rear-ended a car when my brake pedal went all the way to the floor. I had about a second and a half to react and realized, oh, I have this nice thing here in my hand. And I was able to slow down with that and then ride that most of the way home. It was a little bit scary. So after doing some research, I found out that if you pump the brakes and the seals stiffen back up, then it's a bad seal problem. Seals in master cylinders only last 100,000 miles or so. On partsgeek.com, I was able to get a replacement master cylinder for I think 80 bucks. Overall, this whole project was a little over $100 in parts and equipment. It saved me well over several $100s in repair bills. So I'm going to show you what I did using the instructions found on this website on the bottom of the screen. Their instructions were pretty clear, and after I read over them several times, I thought to myself, hey, I can do this. The first step, of course, in doing something like this is believing you can do it. Let me show you what I did. You'll need a new master cylinder, the appropriate brake fluid, a line or flare nut wrench, which looks like this, a socket set, some shop towels, and a bleeder kit. But I'd recommend at least 2, and you'll see why in a minute. So I set my new master cylinder in my vise to bench bleed it. The idea is to fill the system with fluid and remove all the air. I removed the cap and checked that there was a little filter inside. Good. Now these bleeder hoses were a bit long, so I cut them in half so as to route the fluid back to the reservoir without looping around, because that could trap air. Now this Dorman Universal Bleeder Kit comes with a bunch of different fittings, but only one of each size. And this is why I recommend at least 2 kits. Ideally, you'd buy as many kits as you had ports, but that's a bit excessive for a one-time job, I think. I was able to find a second fitting that was close enough, and I wrapped it in Teflon to keep it from leaking. Then I pushed my tubes onto the fittings and put a towel down to catch any drips. Then I clipped my hoses to the top of the reservoir with the included clips. I put some fluid in and made sure that the tubes were submerged in the fluid so they couldn't suck air back in. Using a large Phillips screwdriver, I slowly pumped the cylinder to remove the air. And once there were no more bubbles coming out of the tubes inside the fluid, I was done. And then I left it alone like this until installation. So here is the old master cylinder that I'm taking out. The first thing I did was to remove the fluid level sensor. The clip was a bit tough. It had some memoried in the wires and it really didn't want to stay out of the way. Then I removed the cap and filter so I could remove most of the old fluid. For this, I used a dollar store turkey baster. However, it was basically crap, and so I ended up using a baster to start a siphon with one of my bleeder tubes. And that worked great. I put 3 layers of towels underneath the cylinder to catch the inevitable drips, which were about to follow. Now this is what a line or flare nut wrench is for. It's a 6-point wrench with the end cut out so that it can fit around a brake line. A regular open-ended wrench might round the corners of the flare nuts, so I didn't use one of those. And I would have made my own line wrench had I found a 6-point closed-end wrench. Now all I had to do was remove the nut on each side of the master cylinder, and it slides right out. Piece of cake. Here you can see into the vacuum booster and the overall work area. Your cylinder may have more brake lines than mine did. The new cylinder slips right back in place over the mounting bolts. Now I didn't tighten the nuts all the way until I reattached the brake lines to make it a bit easier. And I topped it off in preparation to lose some fluid during this fitting changeover. I tried to keep the bleeder lines high to minimize spills, and then I quickly reattached the brake lines, one at a time, hand tight, then finished it out with the line wrench. Now I should have been wearing gloves, but I couldn't find them, and I had soapy water in a spray bottle that I used frequently. I didn't notice any skin issues, but I'm still recommending gloves. Once the lines were tight, I tightened the master cylinder nuts all the way. Then I removed the towels and bled my brakes according to the video instructions on the 2Car Pros website. And man, it was easy to bleed brakes. I'm going to do it myself from now on. About 10 minutes and $6. Well, and here's the old master cylinder. You can see that really didn't take all that long at all. It probably took me about an hour and a half. It was quite simple. And this is something you can probably do yourself if you just believe that you can. Of course, if you believe you can't, definitely take it to a mechanic. But go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already. I'm Mike Thompson, and thanks for watching. I really appreciate it.